Namaste and welcome to Bharat News on Bharat TV. I'm Mona Sharma Gupta here with today's comprehensive coverage of top stories. Let's take a look at the headlines now. In today's top stories, Democratic lawmakers attempt to enter the Department of Education in protest over possible budget cuts related to the DOGE, while California refuses to enforce Trump's executive order banning transgender athletes in girls' sports. The Trump administration's rapid the Trump administration's rapid dismantling of USAID has led to mass forced leaves, sparking legal battles over the agency's shutdown. Meanwhile, President Trump meets with the Japanese Prime Minister as tariff tensions loom, and the FBI and the DOJ reach an agreement on a lawsuit concerning a January 6 agent list amid fears of retaliation. In Indian news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to prioritize trade in his upcoming discussions with President Trump. Rahul Gandhi challenges election fraud allegations in Maharashtra, citing discrepancies in reported numbers. India has summoned the Bangladesh envoy following protests in Dhaka over remarks about Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And additionally, the new income tax bill has been approved by the cabinet and is expected to be tabled in the Lok Sabha on Monday. Internationally, violent protests in Bangladesh continue over remarks against Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, escalating political tensions in the region. Now, the news in detail. Tensions flared at the Department of Education as Democratic lawmakers attempted to enter the agency's headquarters in protest over potential budget cuts tied to the Department of the Government Efficiency, the DOGE. The cuts, reportedly part of President Trump's plan to streamline federal agencies, could impact funding for public education and student aid programs. Security officers prevented lawmakers from entering certain restricted areas, leading to a heated exchange between officials and protesting members of Congress. Critics argue that the cuts will disproportionately harm lower-income students and underfunded schools. The Trump administration insists that the reforms are necessary to eliminate inefficiencies and redirect resources to high-priority programs. Legal challenges are expected as education advocates push back against the proposed changes. California state officials announced that they will continue allowing transgender athletes to compete in girls' sports despite President Trump's recent executive order banning such participation at federally funded schools. Governor Gavin Newsom reaffirmed the state's commitment to inclusivity, stating that California will not enforce what he called an unconstitutional and discriminatory policy. Schools and sports organizations in the state are expected to challenge federal enforcement, setting up a legal showdown between state and federal authorities. Schools and sports organizations in the state are expected to challenge federal enforcement, setting up a legal shutdown between state and federal authorities. Advocacy groups have praised California's defiance, while conservative lawmakers argue that the state is undermining fairness in women's athletics. The legal battle could escalate to the Supreme Court if the federal government seeks to withhold funding from non-compliant states. The Trump administration's rapid shutdown of the U.S. Agency for International Development, the USAID, has left the agency's global staff in limbo, with nearly all employees placed on forced leave. As contractors and aid workers scramble to return home, federal employee associations have taken legal action to block the dismantling of the six-decade-old agency. A federal judge has scheduled a hearing to determine whether a temporary order could halt the shutdown. Meanwhile, USAID's Washington headquarters has been stripped off of its signage, with workers covering the agency's name with duct tape. Diplomats and State Department officials are appealing to the administration to allow key staff to remain in place to manage ongoing aid programs. The controversy has sparked bipartisan concerns over the abrupt changes in U.S. foreign and aid policy. President Donald Trump met with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on Thursday, discussing trade policies and economic cooperation amid growing tensions over tariffs. Trump has threatened to impose higher tariffs on Japanese automobiles and electronic goods, arguing that Japan's trade practices put American industries at a disadvantage. Kishida, a Japanese politician, warned that such measures could strain US Japan relations and hurt global supply chains. While both leaders agreed to strengthen security ties, trade remained a sticking point. The meeting ended without a formal agreement, but further negotiations are expected in the coming weeks. Analysts predict that Japan may seek exemptions or retaliatory tariffs if Trump follows through with his threats. The FBI and Department of Justice have reached an agreement in a lawsuit concerning the disclosure of a list of agents involved in the January 6 Capitol riot investigations. The agreement, reached after concerns over potential retaliation against FBI personnel, ensures that certain names will remain classified, while others may be disclosed under strict security protocols. Critics argue that withholding the full list undermines transparency, while law enforcement officials insist that revealing agent identities could compromise their safety. The deal marks a temporary resolution, though further legal battles are expected as advocacy groups push for full disclosure. Now, news from India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet President Trump next week, with trade discussions expected to take center stage. The two leaders are likely to address key issues, including tariff reductions, increased market access for Indian goods, and U.S. investments in India's manufacturing sector. Sources indicate that Modi will advocate for stronger bilateral trade agreements, particularly in technology and defense. While India seeks concessions on steel and aluminium tariffs, the US is expected to press for greater agriculture and pharmaceutical market access. The meeting comes as both nations aim to strengthen their strategic and economic ties. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has challenged allegations of election fraud in Maharashtra, citing discrepancies in reported voter turnout numbers. The opposition leader claims that irregularities in official data undermine accusations of vote tampering. Election Commission officials maintain that the reported figures are accurate and dismiss claims of manipulation. The controversy has fueled political tensions ahead of upcoming state elections, with Gandhi's party demanding an independent audit. BJP leaders, meanwhile, have dismissed the allegations as an attempt to discredit the electoral process. The Indian government has summoned the Bangladesh envoy following protest in Dhaka over remarks concerning Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Demonstrations erupted in Bangladesh after controversial comments made by Indian officials were perceived as interference in Bangladesh's internal affairs. New Delhi has expressed concerns over the protest, calling for diplomatic discussions to de-escalate tensions. The incident underscores the delicate nature of India-Bangladesh relations, particularly in light of recent economic and political developments. India's cabinet has approved a new income tax bill, which is expected to be tabled in the Lok Sabha on Monday. The bill aims to streamline tax structures, introduce digital tax reforms, and provide relief for middle-class taxpayers. Sources indicate that the legislation may include measures to simplify tax filings and incentivize business investments. Lawmakers from opposition parties have raised concerns over certain provisions, calling for further debates before the bill is passed. If approved, the new tax framework could reshape India's economic policies for the coming fiscal years. Covering international news, violent protests erupted in Bangladesh following remarks against Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, with demonstrators targeting government buildings and clashing with the police. The protests, which began early this week, have intensified as opposition groups call for Hasina's designation. Authorities have deployed additional security forces in Dhaka to maintain order, while Hasina's government has condemned the unrest as an attempt to destabilize the country. International leaders are closely monitoring the situation, as escalating violence could impact Bangladesh's political stability and economic prospects. That concludes today's news on Bharat TV. For more updates and stories, please visit our website or follow us on social media. I'm Mona Sharma Gupta, and I'll see you next time.